strike, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down tonight. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up, babe. Tonight we gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up.
Hello, hello. Welcome to the HVAC Guide live show where we talk about all things HVAC that no one else is talking about. I've got a special show for you tonight. We have been I've done some other videos on it, but we've been kind of holding off on this topic. And tonight I want to do a special live show, take questions on the new refrigerants that are out. We're going to dispel some of the myths, maybe do some myth busting. Maybe do some setting the record straight sort of stuff. And my goal tonight is to just, inform you. If you're in the market for a heating and air system, let you know kind of where we're at with all of this, with all the new refrigerants and all that fun stuff. If you are joining us on the live show, please say hello. So say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're dialing in from, where you're watching us from. We always appreciate the support, the hellos. Hello to Carl. Good to see you. I think it's been a while since I've seen you on our show. Maybe I'm confusing you with another Carl. I'm not sure, but I know there was another Carl that used to always join us. So hello to Carl. Yeah, I think this is a hot topic. We've got new refrigerants that, are hitting the market. Now I can't speak for all the manufacturers. Some of the manufacturers are, a little quicker than others. Some of them are kind of holding out, and that's kind of where we're at with things. Hello to Terrence out of Jacksonville, Florida. I will be in Florida in a couple months. So welcome to the show. Ryan, good to see you, pal. I feel like Ryan's been joining me every week. Or, no, maybe not every week. I mean, he's got a life, but, joins me pretty regularly, and I appreciate you, man. Carl says, no, it's been a while. So yeah, welcome back, Carl. In Arizona of all places, that hot place out there. So welcome to the show, Carl, Terrence, and Ryan. Let's see, Hassan. I lived in Virginia Beach. Will the cost of the new equipment be more expensive? They're telling us across the board, on average, yes. So the equipment. Now, well, let me back up. The refrigerant, maybe not so much, but the equipment, because of the new hardware overall, they're saying is going to be a little bit expensive. When they first started coming out with all this, I remember that they were saying that the equipment was going to be significantly higher. I mean, some of the OEMs were saying like 30-40% higher. However, from what I've been seeing, what little bit we've seen, it's a little higher, but I don't think it's 30%. So I think it's far from that. But it is a little higher. There's some extra hardware in there. And that's one of the things we're going to get into tonight. What are the new changes to the equipment? What is coming down the pike with these new refrigerants? And it's no longer coming down, right? I used to say coming down the pike, this stuff's coming. We're here. I laid my hands. I've got a video coming out soon on a system I laid hands on last week, and you'll be able to physically see some of the things, some of the changes with the new equipment and the new refrigerants. So, but VB, that stands for Virginia Beach. Is that right, Hassan? Because I'm in Virginia Beach. I'm actually going to be there tomorrow. Um, and I mean, I'm down there at least once a week. So, Carl says it's been a long, hot summer here. Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. Will the equipment be larger again? Like some equipment got larger for CO2. So that's one of the cool things. Great question, Ryan. Uh, no, the equipment should not get larger. In fact, in some cases, it should get smaller. These refrigerants are supposed to be more efficient, meaning it takes less of it to reach the same capacities. And some of the OEMs have come out and said, uh, you know, equipment's going to be smaller footprints. Equipment's going to get a little smaller, a little less raw materials because it takes less of this stuff to get the same capacity. So, good question. Good way to get the show started, because that's some of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about the changes coming and some of the things you guys need to know about these you know, refrigerants and the equipment coming with that. So, again, as far as the timeline of things, I think everybody seems to be on their own timeline. But as of January 1st of this coming year of 2025, all the unitary split system stuff should be, transitioned over. You should be buying R32 or R454B stuff starting January 1st. Now, originally, that was going to be it for 410. Originally, when they first named that date, they said that's it. No more 410A equipment. Some lobbyists and people that fight for, you, the homeowner, and us, the contractors, went to Washington and bought us a year. Hopefully, they're able to buy us another year or two at some point. But right now, they bought us a year. So January 1st, all the unitary stuff, all the split systems, conventional heating and air systems, 410A is going to be phased out as far as that goes. You'll still be able to buy certain pieces. So you'll be able to buy, say, a heat pump with, 410A in it, but you will not be able to buy a full system. At least that's how it's been explained to me. And then January 1st, 2026, that's when they will finally completely make the switch. So cool, Hassan. I appreciate you joining me, man. I am curious, what's your favorite restaurant down there? Just because I'm chubby and I'm a foodie and I love, when I'm in Virginia Beach, I'll usually try different places. So Ryan says, will the equipment, oh, we already answered that question. Does R32 do better with longer line set runs? I think it's about the same. I don't think that either one outshines the other as far as the refrigerant itself in comparison. Um, there are some systems out there that have more impressive line set runs than others, but I think that has more to do with the compressor and the engineering of the system. It's not so much the refrigerant. Is the pressures the same? Great question. Let me show you guys a graphic. That's one of the things you guys are getting to it tonight. Let's see if I can switch to this screen. Can I drop this? Okay, so can you guys see this screen? Let me know if you can see this or not, but this is supposed to be a picture. I don't know who posted this. It says reply to Chad Baston's comment. So this was on social media somewhere, but essentially this is showing comparable pressures. So you can see there that they're all kind of within the same, I'd say within 30 psi of one another. 454 being a little less, R32 being a little more, but all in all, right in that same range. Now, I hope we can all agree that 434 would be a significantly high head pressure if it was in AC mode. So hopefully this is in heating mode, but it does give you a general idea of kind of where they all would be pressure wise at that temperature. So just be aware of that. Let me see if I can jump back to, oh, that's not the right. Is this the right one? Yes. Okay. So hopefully you guys could see my screen because I couldn't see what you could see. So hopefully you guys could see those pressures when I showed that. Ryan, if you could let me know if that popped up there, that'd be great. Dead Aim says, also, how does the price of R32 compare to the equal 410A system? Um, Again, it's going to be a little higher because of the extra hardware. And since you guys have asked twice on that, let's go ahead and go through the extra hardware so you guys kind of have a general idea of what that's all about. And I'm using some different slides from a class that I teach. Bum, bum, bum. Actually, let me do this because again, I can't see what you guys can see. So let me see if I can do it this way. Oh, is it gonna work? Bear with me. Now my computer's going slow. Son says, I recommend you Bobo's restaurant. Okay, I will check that out. We ate at a restaurant down in Virginia Beach one day called the Ice House, and that place was pretty awesome. Come on, computer. Come on, computer. I might have to switch. Here it goes. Okay. Bear with me. Yeah, if this thing's not going to go any faster, I might have to switch here. Bear with me, folks. I'm going to try switching internet connections here, so see if that helps at all. Bear with me. Hopefully, I don't lose you. Okay, hopefully you guys can still see me. I did switch internet connections there. Let me go back to my graphics here on the changes here. So full screen. Come on, computer. Hmm. I'm gonna show you guys a graphic. Let me I'll go back to that in just a moment. Ryan says, I've seen some contractors telling people with older systems to upgrade now to avoid having the A2L leak sensor since it will disable the system if there is a leak. So as I understand it, Ryan, I don't think it does disable the system. I originally thought that as well. I don't think it acts like a float switch, or at least it doesn't as it's been explained to me. It doesn't act like a float switch. It doesn't kill the system. It acts more like a mitigation on a system. So just like a furnace, if a limit switch opens and it brings on that fan motor to constantly run, this it acts no different. So if it senses a refrigerant leak, it does not want a concentrated pocket of that refrigerant sitting in there, and it wants to bring fresh air through there, and so it will run that fan motor to accommodate. So here we go. All right. So let's see. Hopefully, you guys can see this. This is a picture of some of the sensors that they're now putting in the systems. And those sensors are about the size, if I had to guess, about the size of two of my thumbs. So they're kind of small, not real big. They're mounted in there by the evaporator coil. If it's an air handler, it's going to be, mounted in there from the factory with a cord running up to a control board. If it's in an evaporator coil, that would be, say, mounted on a furnace or a modular blower, then that sensor would then need to be plugged into the controls in some way. And some of those, the board that is in the furnace that's rated for A2L refrigerants will have a place for that sensor to plug into. If not, some of the brands, OEMs, have come out with a board that can be added to the system, mounted. And for every one that I've seen, you mount it externally, which is interesting. And then it's got cords running up to the evaporator coil and then into the furnace. So that's what that sensor would look like. And then So that's kind of what that board would look like. You can kind of see they're showing that where you would add a board there and the sensor that's mounted in there near the evaporator coil. And then the fact that on a the service call that contractors will get is if it's a communicating system, they may get an error message on the communicating thermostat, and then the indoor fan uh, either constantly running or at least intermittently running to bring fresh air through there. So they originally said that the outdoor unit would not run, but I recently sat through a class where they said different, that this was not a hard lockout. It does not operate like a float switch. And the other reason that I think that is, from what I can tell, a lot of these boards that are being mounted externally have nothing to do with the Y terminal from the thermostat. So they do not kill the power going outside. Now, again, every brand does things their own way. I could be wrong on that. Don't hold me to that, but just be aware of that. So back to Dead Aim's question, uh, or was it Dead Aim? One of you guys were asking about the equipment. Oh, yeah, you Dead Aim. So you asked about the price. So we do have extra hardware on in those systems. So just be aware of that. Ryan says if a leak is detected, will the system stop running with A2L refrigerants? Again, not a hard lockout from what I'm seeing. So that system will still be able to run if it can run, right? So if the low pressure switch opens on the outdoor unit and it's low on refrigerant, then obviously that's a whole nother animal. It would do that with a 410A system. It would, kill the system or go into some sort of hard lockout. That's not what this does. This is more about bringing fresh air into that system. And again, exceptions to every rule. Another OEM may do things differently, but from what I've been seeing, especially with the brands that we sell at the company I work at, that this is not a hard lockout. It's more just a matter of if that sensor sees a refrigerant leak, bring fresh air through there because these refrigerants are mildly flammable. And while we're on the topic of flammability, another thing I keep seeing on the internet is, let me see, let me type this out. Does A2L refrigerants have propane? So that's another question we keep seeing as far as, do A2L refrigerants have propane? And the answer is no, they do not. I don't know where that got started. I was listening to a podcast last week from a very reputable HVAC podcast, and the guys on there talking about how there's propane in these refrigerants, and there's not. There's just simply not. So R32 is difluoromethane. It is mildly flammable, but it's nowhere near the level of propane. And let me show you guys a video that kind of shows the flammability of that. Bear with me here. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see this. Hopefully it plays here. Is it going to play? And of course, it doesn't want to play right now. Hopefully I can get this to play for you guys. But just a good representation on the flammability. And I think, again, I'm not saying these things are not flammable. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be safe with these systems, but I am saying that we don't necessarily need to be fearful of these systems as long as we're doing everything safe and proper from what I've been seeing. So, um, I wish I could get this thing to play. Present. Yeah, she don't want to play right now. If it does start playing, I'll jump back over to it. But it's basically a video showing a guy trying to ignite these refrigerants. And the main thing that I would say is, we've all cooked a steak with propane before. We know how flammable it is and how easily it can ignite, catch fire, and continue to burn. as long as there's fuel source. In comparison with these refrigerants, they're just not they're not as flammable. Okay. So I'm not going to get into all the flame propagation, which I think is the verbiage they use, and the thresholds that make it an A1 or an A2 or any of that. I think that's way above my pay grade anyway. You can watch other videos on that matter if you really care. But the point here is it's not as flammable as, say, R290 or R600A. Okay. Can the sensors be bypassed in any way? Just curious if some contractors will try that. So uh, I think they can be bypassed. Should they be bypassed? No. I would not want to be on the news for bypassing one of these sensors. I would not want to duct tape over one of these sensors. I don't know why you would want to anyway. This stuff I see people do in our industry sometimes. Why? Just do things right. Sometimes it's like it takes more effort to do things wrong than it does to just do things right sometimes. So but yes, I think that they could be bypassed. They could probably be removed. And that would be interesting, especially what would happen if we did see someone, doing those things. So I guess this video won't play for me tonight, but that's okay. Let me see. So let me show you guys this. This kind of just gives a good graphic of what we were just talking about. And this just shows what I was just talking about. So when you say A2Ls, what they're basically saying is the A's are less toxic. So if it's a B in front of it, such as ammonia, it's going to be more toxic. And then the numbers that they attach to it are how flammable it is. So if it's an A1, for example, like R22 and 410 down here, they are less flammable or no flame propagation, I think is the verbiage they use. And then you've got A3s over here. You got R290, which is propane, a good clean version of propane. And that is an A3. It's very flammable. And then finally, the three refrigerants that are the hot ones right now that all this either HVAC systems or cars are going to are these three right here. So R32, which is the refrigerant that Daikin, Amana, Goodman, and a number of the mini split manufacturers seem to be going with. 1234YF, which is what you would see in a lot of cars that are bought today. And then 454B is the refrigerant that Train, Lennox, Carrier, Ream, York, a number of other brands are going with. And what's interesting is 454B is a blend of these two refrigerants. So it's almost 70% R32 and just over 30% 1234YF. So it is a blend. It does need to be charged in liquid. It does need to be treated as a blend, such as with glide and fractionation. And it's, so it is a blend as far as that goes, just like 410A was. So that's what we're talking about here. Ryan says, what would happen if a contractor accidentally adds the wrong refrigerant to your unit during the install or repair if you have an R32 unit and they add 454B or 410, since all the containers look the same? And I'm glad you brought that up, because that honestly is my biggest gripe with all of this. My biggest, that stupid video I want to show you guys, the one after it wants to play all of a sudden. So is this one going to play? That's the question. No, it doesn't. The video I want to show you guys won't play, but another video in my slide deck here is playing. So of course it is. Let me go back to, bear with me. I'm not seeing it. But anyway, so back to your question, Ryan, what would happen? I think, first of all, I think that's the question, right? So I remember when these replacement refrigerants, or some folks call them drop-in refrigerants, came out for R22, um, they would say, well, you can't add it in with R22. And my question, I'm always asking the question, right? Well, what would happen if I did? Is the system blowing up? Is it just gonna not run as well? Is it, I mean, what would happen if I accidentally did? But anyway, I this is my biggest gripe. Ryan just pointed it out. Gone are the days of green jugs, pink jugs, blue jugs. All these refrigerants, these A2L refrigerants, have these off-white colors, um, light gray, creamy, off-white type looking colors with a red stripe. And I know what you're thinking. Well, Josh, they should read the label. Yeah, they should do lots of things that they don't do. And I just think that this just adds another layer of, why couldn't one just be purple and the other one be, lime green, right? Why couldn't they make them significantly different looking, as far as the refrigerant tanks themselves go? Uh, I don't understand that. I don't know who made that decision. It's my one gripe with all of this. There's lots of changes with these, but it's the one gripe that I have with this, because we've all had those helpers. We've all had those, even if you're not in HVAC, if you've had someone learning under you at a job and they don't listen, right? And I could just see someone making that mistake, not reading the label, someone learning or not paying attention. And it's my biggest gripe with all these changes. So, what would happen, Ryan? Maybe nothing. Maybe nothing would happen, but it definitely is against code. It's definitely probably going to void warranties if they find out. And it's just, another added layer that we shouldn't have to worry about if these things were a little better thought out, in my opinion. Carl says the video I saw showed how R32 would burn with the presence of a flame, but when the flame was removed, the R32 would not support a flame on its own. Yeah, it's got to be perfect situations. The velocity of the refrigerant, the speed that it's coming out of where it's leaking. If it's a high pressure, it will blow the flame out, in some cases. And that's the video I wanted to show you guys that will not play right at this moment. But I wonder if I can find it elsewhere. Hold on one second here. Wonder if I can find it on my YouTube channel. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. It's just not going to be cut up. It's the long version of the video, but it's still there. Hold on one second here. You guys actually might not hear him. And now this one's not going to play. It was starting to play, and then as soon as I switched it over, it doesn't want to play. So let's see if it's going to play here. Hold on one second here. Come on. I do not have patience for these things. It just doesn't want to play, but you can kind of see the little picture there where he takes a spark igniter and he tries to light the R32 on fire. And then he later on then does it with a candle. And then he lowers the pressure significantly and does it with a candle. And he does finally get it to ignite. Before it was blowing the candle out, but he finally does get it to ignite, with the third test of regulating the pressure down significantly low. But come on, man. Um, but as soon as he removes the flame from the source, then it goes out. So it's I think just the point here is, I think there's a significant difference between, say, propane that you cook a steak with, and you know, R32 or R454B. There's just a difference there. Ryan says, will the new systems finally require commissioning reports to protect the homeowner and contractor to ensure it was installed correctly? There are companies working on that, Ryan. I just had an interview. We've got a video coming out soon where I was sat down with the president and what was Sean's title? He was like the vice president of something or another, but basically the higher ups at ACA, which is the Air Conditioning Contractors of America. And, they talked about some of these things and how they're working on ways that homeowners can be more confident in the not just the abilities of their contractor, but have something tangible that shows that they did things correctly and that they can't cut corners. They can't just fill it in. They've got to actually do the test that that it's requiring them to do to get a proper and approved certificate. And so there are companies working on that. ACA's working on that. They've done some work with Measure Quick. They've got a quality installation program that they're working on, which is really cool. I don't know if Measure Quick's the only one that they're working with. If you don't know who Measure Quick is, they have sponsored some of our content on our YouTube channel. And Measure Quick is a really cool program that it will take your wireless tools, and not only does it give you the readings, but it will give you readings and say, this is not okay. So it's a really cool tool for contractors. But what's good about it for homeowners is it gives them the confidence to know that things were done properly, because the contractor can't just fill in the blank. Oh, well, it's supposed to be 0.5 static pressure. So, it's 0.5 static pressure. It ain't gonna let you do that. It's going to make you do the things you're supposed to do to get the proper readings and get that proper certificate. So great question there. Carl says, how does R32 or 450, probably 454B, carry oil through the system? Any problems with oil return? So as far as I know, Carl, everything is, these refrigerants. So 410A is half R32. And 454B is 70%, almost 70% R32. So all of them, they're working with R32 here, and they're all pretty much the same as far as their abilities. Maybe there's some differences here and there. I know there's some temperature differences, some pressure differences here and there, and some capacity, how well they work and efficiencies. But other than that, they should be all operating the same on that front. Can you still mix match equipment from different manufacturers as long as it's the same refrigerant? EX example, an outdoor unit from Goodman and an indoor coil from Fujitsu, since they both will use R32. So I think ultimately, Ryan, number one, my answer is going to be everything should be an AHRI match, but we all know there are situations where maybe it's not. So for example, a mobile home furnace that you're going to match an outdoor unit and coil, and they just simply don't have an AHRI match. That said, as long as you're doing everything up to code and you've got that sensor in there and it has the ability to go into mitigation, I would guess that the answer is yes, you'll still be able to do all the things that you need to do to get the job done and make that home comfortable. But you just got to make sure you're abiding by the codes. You got to make sure that you are allowing the system to do what it needs to do, such as go into mitigation if there is a problem. Guys, we jumped right into it. Let me take a moment before we go any further and thank the sponsor of tonight's show. I want to thank the sponsor of tonight's show, EasyFit Isolator Valves. I've seen a lot of products in my years of doing HVAC and plumbing, but I haven't seen many where I've said every HVAC and plumbing service vehicle should have one of those. The EasyFit Isolator Valve is one of those products. I personally think so many jobs in my past, having one of these would have made my and my customers' lives so much better. This valve can allow for easy installation without shutting off the main water shutoff, making so many applications possible. The homeowner or business owner stays operational while the HVAC mechanic or plumber looks like the hero. I'll put a link in the description of this video or the chat. Get yourself one today to have on hand for that emergency we all know will come. So yeah, thank you to EasyFit Isolator Valve. I let's see. Emery says, "How do you do a load calc according to Manual J?" Well, that's a loaded question. A lot of contractors use a software, but there is a way to do it with pen and paper. Um, I'll be completely honest with you, I've never done it, but there is an actual Manual J. There is a manual that you can buy from ACA, and you can sit down with a pen and paper and do it. Um, but I do have a video coming out soon for the first time. We've played with it, and we've tried to help folks with this on our website, newhvacguide.com. For the first time, I got a video coming on this. We have we've partnered with a company to offer that. So it's not through us, it's not through me, I'm not going to be doing the load calculations, but if homeowners want a third party opinion and they want it done right, this guy, I met him at a class, at a conference slash class, I guess. And we got to talking, and he showed me one of his load calculations, and I told him this is very thorough. It's more thorough than most. And we started talking about the ins and outs of it. So we've got a video coming up soon. We'll have a link in that video where homeowners will be able to click that link, put their information in, and his name is JC. JC, very smart guy. Sometimes you ever get in the room with somebody and you're like, got it, I'm not the smartest person in the room right now. That's not hard for me. Happens all the time. And it definitely happened with JC. So we'll have a way that homeowners will be able to get those load calculations done. I helped somebody literally 2 weeks ago on our website, and they had gotten 6 quotes, and not one single contractor had done a proper load calculation. And you may say, well, Josh, maybe they did and they didn't share it with the homeowner. Maybe, but some of these contractors were all over the place. One contractor wanted to offer a 2.5 ton. One was offering, well, actually, a few of them were offering a 3 ton. And then a couple of them were offering a 5 ton, right? There's no way I mean, come on, you know, there's no way one is twice what another one is, and they're doing a proper load calculation. So it's frustrating for homeowners. It's probably frustrating for some contractors, especially when they're the type of contractor that is doing things properly and they aren't going to cut corners, and then they find out that they're bidding against somebody that, is doing those sorts of things. So we will have a way finally. It's something I've been working on for the longest time, and just by happenstance, isn't that a word? Happenstance. I met JC, and I don't know if JC will ever see this, but JC, we appreciate you, man. I appreciate you stepping in, and he's going to help folks get those proper load calculations done. And it'll be a third party opinion or service, that he'll be able to do it. And the other thing I liked about him was he's like, there is no opinion here. There's right and wrong. There's a right way to do it, and there will be no gray areas, and it will be a proper load calculation, room by room, or whatever. Whatever you need, whatever they need, and JC will be able to offer that. So I'm really excited about that. Being able now, it's not a fit for everybody. Not everybody needs it, but when you do, it's very frustrating if you can't find somebody that does it. So we'll be able to link you up with a very smart guy in JC. DIY HVAC guy. What's up, Dave? Ryan says the same line sets can be used if they are cleaned, wiped, or flushed correct. Yes. So everything that we did before, as long as those line sets are either new or flushed or whatever, purged, making sure everything is done properly, then yes, you will still be able to use the same line sets. Is there a list of who, in terms of manufacturers, are supporting which refrigerant? I don't know if there's a list, but no, they're not hiding it, right? I mean, you could probably go to most of the websites and see what they're offering. So, um, Boom, 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 boom. Sorry, I had somebody messaging me, and I thought it might have been that JC guy I was just talking about. I wish everyone could use those apps that 3D scan your home for. Yeah, the I think it's what was it called, Conduit or something. I've heard some other folks talking about that, and that's really cool. If somebody from that company sees this and they want to come on our show, let me know. I think it's a really cool technology, and it's a wave of the future, a snapshot of things to come, right? So, Scan Your Home was available to customers to get their own load calculations. I don't know how that works. I honestly have not laid hands on that program. Maybe there is a way for the you to do that, Ryan. I don't know why not. I mean, I don't know why a contractor could walk through there and then you could walk through there. You both could do the same things. So maybe there is a way for you to do that. Yeah, pretty cool. So let me go back to our information here and some of our myth busting. These new refrigerants will have relief valves on the tanks, or they do. I've laid hands on them. Let me show you what that kind of looks like. Full screen. My dog is barking. So this is what those relief valves look like. Um, and so gone are the days of the rupture discs like this on top of the tanks. The A2L refrigerant systems have a relief valve on them, and I've got this bouncing up here because some of the companies have gotten their tanks lab tested and approved with the EPA that they can store them horizontal. And as I understand it, maybe not all. So technicians need to be reading the box and making sure they're doing things properly. But that's what the tanks themselves are going to have on them. They're also going to have left-hand threads. Now, one thing that's interesting that has come out very recently that we're hearing is these tanks have always been disposable. So the non-refillable, non-recovery cylinders have always been disposable, that you would just puncture it and dispose of it. You could recycle it at a metal, place. But they're telling us, I'm hearing that it was approved, although I've not seen our local supply house doing this yet. And that is these cylinders are going to have to be returned. And so, what that will look like, I don't know. Is this one of those deals where it'll be like when you go buy a battery at an auto parts store and they've got a core charge, and then you get reimbursed that core, or maybe like some sort of a tank swap program? I don't know, but that's what they're telling us, that these will need to be returned and recycled. Um, so I don't know what that will look like, but that is something very new coming down the pike, which is pretty interesting, I think. Um, let's see. How much is a tank of R32? It probably matters what part of the country you're in, Dave. I know you're out west. Dave's been on our show. For those of you that don't know who Dave is, and I don't know what it is in your state, but I think the last time I priced one, it was around $300, and then I think the 454B was $100 higher than that. But don't hold me to that. Every state's different, and so on. Emery says, can you put new refrigerant in a system that uses an old one? Can you put uses an old? Oh, are you talking about refrigerants? I think you're saying, can you put an A2L refrigerant in a system that had, an A1? Is that what you're asking? If so, the answer is no. You cannot do that by code. It doesn't have the sensor, and it just simply is not. You're not supposed to do that. So, I've been watching your video recently. Good evening. I have a question. I'm on ductwork at this moment. Okay, well, send me your question, buddy. Ryan says, how will the new A2L refrigerants affect the DIY market? Will it be only pre-charge line systems now, or be no changes at all? I don't know, Ryan. For me personally, if I was working with a flammable refrigerant, I'm not going now. Those companies just love me anyway, because I've exposed them in some other videos. but one company in particular. But I'm not going DIY on a new system myself um if it's a flammable system. I mean, if it's flammable refrigerants, I'm not going DIY. That's just me. I know everybody's different. Dave says they sell pre-charged R32 units now, so the install process should be about the same, which is not surprising, but again, I would not change my stance on that. Emery says, "What about R22 and 410A systems? What about them? Are you asking if you could put A2Ls in those, or need just let me know, expand on that." Let me go back to there was something else I was going to show you guys. I showed you the equipment, showed you let me show you let me show you guys this slide. So this is a slide from one of the Daikin presentations, and I did not get Daikin's approval to show this slide. However, I got this slide online, so they shouldn't be mad at me about this one. Some of their stuff, their internal stuff, I'm not allowed to show, but this slide I should be okay. But this is showing over here smaller footprint for certain models because the R32 is significantly more efficient than 410A. It'll be a smaller footprint. So the compressors and tubing, all the raw materials should be less if the system holds less charge. It's going to probably have some scary labels. So they wrote labels. And then this is, I think, supposed to say red valves. One of the classes I taught, I was talking to one of the guys in there, and he was talking about, he had showed me a code. This wasn't in a slide or in an OEM's manual. This was in an actual code book that he was showing me, and it talked about red paint being either near a valve or on the valve of these systems. And so I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if we're going to have to be painting them at sometimes. I have not seen that. We have contractors that have put, A2L refrigerant systems in, and that this was not a topic, but I did think that was interesting because we have one county in particular near us that they have some very strict codes, very strict. It's almost like California is known for having stricter codes, right? And it's almost like this county, was plopped here in Virginia from California because they have some very strict codes. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. But he literally showed me that in a code book. That was not, that was not in a manual, for example, or on a website. So I thought that was interesting. Can you put A2Ls in an R22 or 410A system? No, you cannot. Do not do that. They don't have the sensors, and they probably, they're not meant to do that anyway, especially R22. R22, the pressures are in some cases 3 times less than 410A, R32, or 454B. The pressures are significantly less. Does R32 require POE oil? So the oils are all the same. So the systems that had PV oil, the systems that had POE oil, all of those are all going to be pretty much the same. If they were using one or the other for 410, then most likely they're going to be using the same for, these new A2L refrigerants. Going back to my slides, I just want to make sure that I get all of that covered. The other thing that I'll note is the storage and transport of these refrigerants. So I taught a class today, and I was telling the guys, these technicians are now required to have a powder type or CO fire extinguisher on their service vehicles. And that's not on their employer. That's what I told them. I was like, it's not your boss's job to make sure you're doing that. Now it may be between you and your boss on who pays for it, but it's on you. If you are required to have a powder type fire extinguisher on your van and you're handling A2L refrigerants, it's on you. It ain't on your employer. you need to make sure that you have the proper PPE and safety, devices and protocols, with you and your job site. You're the professional. So, it's, I think that's very important to note. Uh, Other things to point out with transport is, they have noted that these refrigerants can't be stored or transported within certain distances of other things. And I'm not going to get into all the what those things are, but I do think it's interesting because I feel like some of the rules that are being made are just to cover the DOT or the EPA, right? Or whoever's making these rules, they're making the rules to, um, you know, to make to cover them, but some of them are not practical. So one of the rules that was in this video that I saw was, you cannot you cannot transport these refrigerants within 10 feet of the verbiage they used was ignitable materials. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean I can't keep a roll of paper towels on? Because technically that's an ignitable material. So I just thought that was interesting that was the verbiage they picked. And 10 feet or more of distance is that's quite significant for some service vehicles. So I thought that was interesting. Uh Got a little behind on my Dave says, I like the smaller footprint. Philip says, I can't wait for the Daikin Atmosphere R32 tomorrow, Orange County, California. Nice, man. Keep us updated on that. Send me a message. The Atmosphere is an impressive little unit. It's not just the SEER ratings, because there's other units that have high SEER ratings, but it's a good quality unit. I have some friends that have put a bunch in, and we offer them too at the company I work at. My quest is that I'm not my question is that I'm not sure if I can supply one more 6-inch line duct from an existing one, which is 6 inches. Can I use a Y with same diameter or no? Or the supply need to get bigger open and reduce to 6? Ooh. That's a loaded question. Let's see. Because I'm trying to supply 2 rooms with a wide duct, how do you recommend it? Sorry for the long question. I wouldn't recommend it. That's the simple answer. Um, I think ultimately, I mean, let's just use a little common sense, right? So if there's a certain amount of CFMs that system is that 6 inches rated for, and most folks are gonna, regardless of what static pressure you use when you're laying these out. I've heard some guys use 0.08, some guys use 0.1, some guys, say that that's all hogwash and you need to consult manual D and all this stuff. But regardless, most guys would say, under the right static pressures, that it's going to be rated for 100 CFMs ish, give or take. And so if it's rated for 100 CFMs and then you split that, now I can't guarantee that you're going to get 50-50, but you're going to split that, and you're going to have some give or take there. Is it 50-50? Is it 60-40? I mean, you would think it'd be 50-50, but if one's got more static than the other, well, air's just like water. It's going to follow the path of least resistance, right? So ultimately, the short answer to every situation is different, and I would definitely consult a pro. But if you're going to try to go about this yourself, then I would have an 8-inch supply those 2 6 inches. An 8-inch is rated for 200 CFMs, and a 6-inch is rated for 100 CFMs, typically ish, give or take, right? So Dave says you will probably not have enough volume at either supply event. Juan says, I'm wanting to get certified as a technician. Would the new NATE CHP5 pathway be a viable over other pathways? That's a loaded question, Juan. So depending on where you're located in the country, NATE seems to hold more weight than other parts of the country. I can tell you that NATE's not a bad thing, but in my part of the country, I companies don't always hire based on that, or it doesn't directly affect your income based on that. Whereas other parts of the country, especially ones um that have like unions and things like that, maybe certifications like that hold more weight and it will directly affect your income. So it's kind of a loaded question. I think anything that dresses up your resume is a good thing, but I can't say for sure. I don't want to steer you the wrong way, because there are some there's some BS out there. And I've done videos on trade schools and how some of them might be misleading their students, unfortunately, leading them to. So for example, I'll just be honest, the trade school I went to, they said, hey, if you take our 2-year course, you're going to have a journeyman card. That's the verbiage they use. And then they got to the end, and number one, I didn't even get a journeyman card, but I certainly didn't get a journeyman license, because the state of Virginia does not recognize that. They didn't recognize that program, and the school was saying what they needed to say to a young impressionable kid to, get me to take their class. Now, do I regret it? No. I learned a whole lot. But I do still think that some of these programs are saying what they need to say. They're selling the program, right? And they make money off of that. And you just got to understand that they may have ulterior motives in some of the verbiage that they're using. So I don't know. I kind of went down a rabbit hole there, but I do think it's important to know that as a potential student moving for moving forward. Let's see. Ryan is talking to Phillips directly. Uh I want to do this as we wrap up. And by the way, thank you, or you're welcome on answering that question. I'm intentionally not saying your name because I'm sure I would not say it correctly. So I apologize for that, but I just don't want to butcher your name. That said, do me a favor, guys. We've had some good numbers tonight, a good turnout. We got a possible new sponsor that might be joining the show soon. Let's do this. We all know there's some bad apples out there. There's some some companies that make us all look bad. So if you know a good HVAC, plumbing, or electrical company, a good one, share who they are, the name of the company, and where they're located in the country in the chat. Let's show some love to some of the good ones out there as we answer these last couple questions. And hopefully you guys got some stuff out of this. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to really expand on these refrigerants and give you guys some good tidbits and things to know about these new refrigerants coming out. So hopefully you got something out of that. But share, if you know a good one, share who they are. We will highlight them. I'll put them up on the screen here, right there. And let's show them some love. But you never know, if somebody in your area might see your comment, they may end up you may end up showing them a little more than love. So Juan says that makes sense. I started as an apprentice and I've built my knowledge in HVAC in the past 5 years. Dallas, Texas, by the way, just wanting a good wage as a tech. Juan, I know a really good guy out your way, and I don't know if he could employ you or not, but it might be good for you guys to know each other. Send me an email if you don't mind to hvacguide1@gmail.com. And I won't get it, but my team will. And we will get you linked up with a good friend of mine that is building a business out there in Dallas and doing really well for himself. So it might be good for at least y'all to know each other, even if y'all don't end up working together. So Philip says, in the world of HVAC, what's a 2-pipe versus 4-pipe? Will there be 4 pipes in household applications? Only thing I can think of is mini splits, where you might see things like that, unless you've got multiple systems. So if you're talking about, say, a multi-zone, a VRV type system, or some brands call it a VRF. So, I don't know if that helps at all, but most systems, even today, still he'll just have the 2 if we're talking about an indoor and outdoor unit. Ryan says, super cool, and TNC Heating and Air, both in the Charlotte area. So shout out to those guys. You must be doing something right for Ryan to highlight your company. He says Prime AC in Dallas and has a good YouTube channel, and they might can answer your questions about techs in the DTW area. Yeah, so good stuff. If you we've had some good numbers tonight. If you are watching this, do me a favor, hit that like button. That helps out. It helps the algorithm. The algorithm kind of, I don't know if it's my fault. It was the whole reason I moved to the live show originally. The numbers had kind of they had fallen off, and some of the content I felt like was better than ever. And so, that there's probably something I did, but at the end of the day, whether it's good or bad or indifferent, hitting the like button always helps the algorithm. It tells YouTube that, if nothing else, you liked what you were watching, and maybe, just maybe, they'll serve it up to someone else. So, and the other thing is, if you liked the format of tonight's show, going over some of this stuff, normally I like to start with a story and just take questions, but having this topic that we focused on and made sure that we covered, outright, that was kind of my goal tonight. Gail says Super Service Air Conditioning in Las Vegas, Nevada is a great company. So shout out to those guys. I know it's hot out there in Vegas, so they must be doing something right if Gail shouted you out. 2-4 pipe system refers to hydronics. Okay, got it. So anyway, yeah, well, again, hit that like button. Other than that, thank you guys for all your support. If you are not subscribed to either one of our channels, please do that. The format we're going to go with moving forward is we're going to have the HVAC guide for homeowners channel. We're going to have the HVAC guide channel that's going to cover everything else. And if you're not subscribed to those, we would, we would appreciate your support. Ryan says you didn't do anything. YouTube changes the algorithm all the time. The shows have been great. And as we spoke about last week, keep it up. Thanks, pal. Appreciate that. Good enough. Well, we will be back next week. I'll be flying solo again. I wanted to do some solo shows because we had a string of guests. Some of them were not even showing up. And then it was like kind of hectic and trying to get things going. And I really felt like that some of the stuff we really needed to focus on, such as these new refrigerants and setting the record straight with some of those things. So I will be back next week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Ryan says, did you decide to move the day you will have the live stream? So right now I did a poll. I'm glad you asked that. I did do a poll. Let me go to that. Hold on one second. So I did a poll. Share this tab. Where's the poll that I did? There's me meeting with the ACA folks. So Bart is the president and CEO of ACA, and then Sean is the vice president of membership and business operations. So pretty cool meeting those guys. But anyway, yeah, I did a poll and it says, when is the best time? When is best for you to tune in to our live show? And 62% of people said tonight. Live, our normal Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time is the best time for you folks to tune in. So if you feel differently, let me know. But that was kind of my answer on that. I did a poll and most of the folks said that Tuesday nights are best. So 14% of people said another time, but then they did not put a comment. So they didn't tell me what time is better. So maybe there is a better time and we just haven't found it yet. But I thought that was pretty loud response there. So thank you from New Jersey. Yes, sir. You're welcome, pal. Good enough. Well, I would still try Saturday. Yeah, I do. I actually do try Saturdays every now and then because the numbers are always really good. If I do a Saturday morning stream, I don't get our normal folks. I don't get you guys, but I'd get a whole lot of people on those streams. It seems like, especially if the topic is something like this, where we're talking about something that is a hot topic in our trade. they, I think we had over 100 one time, at one given time on the show, close to 150, which was by far the most I've ever had on one of my streams. My little small potatoes, Josh Griffin here. So anyway, that said, we will be back next week. I'll be flying solo, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you're there. In the meantime, make it a great week. Take care.